Hi friends, this is Tiina and welcome to my new video. This is a video that I've been looking forward to filming for the longest time, and as you can see from the length of this video, this isn't my longest video, and I think that the size of my new tiny sketchbook really explains that pretty well. Even though I just said a new sketchbook, this actually isn't new to me because I've had this laying in a cupboard somewhere for 3 years now. I bought this a long while ago because I really wanted to start using this tiny sketchbook because it was just super cute, but I just never got to it until today. I feel like it was just, sometimes starting a new sketchbook feels like there's just too much pressure and you don't really know what you want to do with it. And when I start a new project like this, I do want to keep in mind the fact that I want to finish it one day. So, I would love to have some sort of theme within the sketchbook, or at least if I don't have a theme, I would like to at least, acknowledge what it is for. So I felt like I just had some new other projects that I was working on, so I never got to the sketchbook, but now it is the time finally, and I'm filming a video about it. And as you can see, again, it's a very short video because it's a tiny sketchbook. I just opened up the first spread and started working on it. And if you're wondering what the theme of this sketchbook is, then I actually ended up going for some flowers, some wildflowers, and some very loose gouache paintings, which I honestly don't do enough. So I was really excited to get into a different type of painting for this first spread in the sketchbook, and I've been really inspired by the idea of being able to paint these very small, very loose paintings, and I've definitely been painting in this a lot more than I thought I would when I first started this. By the way, since I think that there are many people who would be interested in the details of the sketchbook, I'm quickly gonna give them to you all here. So this was custom made basically by a Finnish company who does a lot of notebooks. I will leave their link down below, but I don't think that they ship outside of Finland. I'm not completely sure, but just saying that already. It is 6 by 6 centimeters, which I think is 2.36 inches. And it has a watercolor paper where the other side of the page is more textured and the other side is a little bit more smooth. So it's really good for painting with gouache, and I'm really happy that I chose this one because obviously some of those tiny sketchbook pages are very thin and not really suitable for paints. But if you're looking for something similar, I think there's multiple different options that are pretty similar on Etsy. And overall, I think that you're going to be finding something similar when you just Google a tiny sketchbook or something like that. By the way, I quickly want to say that if you are curious about the whole painting process, I have a real-time painting video about this painting here on Patreon. I have to say that it might not be the most useful real-time painting video because this is such a short process and you will see most of that in this video. So in all honesty, I'm not maybe recommending you to only join for that, but I do also have 2 exclusive tutorials there already along with many other real-time painting videos. This is a part of the painting club tier right there. But yeah, spring is always a time for me when I start to kind of get out of the sleepiness and out of the, deadness of winter, I guess. And even though it's not spring yet here, I know that I've seen some beautiful flower pictures already in some Instagram stories, but it's definitely still a full-on winter right here in Finland. I am already looking forward to spring. I feel like for the last year I've had a hard time living in the moment, but I'm also just trying to embrace whatever feelings I get. So I'm trying to, just now embrace the starting spring where the nature starts doing something else than just being asleep. Maybe that's also how I'm feeling. So I'm just really inspired by all things greenery and leaves and beautiful green nature and flowers. And yeah, I was just really excited to start painting some flowers, and I again wanted to take that into my theme for this first painting. And because I liked this idea so much, I actually have already painted 2 other spreads in the sketchbook as well. I have painted the spreads before this because this is basically the first spread in the sketchbook, sketchbook. You know, the first spread that I didn't paint is kind of one that is just like the inner cover of the sketchbook, and the next spread after that is that kind of weird glued page that I usually don't want to paint. But since this is such a tiny sketchbook and it doesn't really, to me, feel as, I don't know, serious and, you know, something that I want to spend like hours and hours on, I felt like I might as well paint those first spreads as well. So after I was done with this video, I was really feeling inspired, so I just picked my paintbrush again and I painted those first spreads as well. And I actually have to say that I like the first spread the most. I will show them to you with a flip through at the end of this video if you want to see them. And yeah, I don't know, I just have really tried to find some more freedom with painting recently. I feel like throughout the whole winter, I have been in this state of kind of having somewhat forced myself to paint. I love painting and I love feeling inspired to paint, but I feel like every single winter is kind of the same for me, where I'm, you know, not as inspired as before. And I have definitely noticed my like cycle that goes perfectly with the seasons, and when the nature is asleep, so am I. And I have noticed that, you know, every spring I just get this new surge of energy. And for example, last spring, many of you might remember that I just filled like almost half of my sketchbook within like 3 weeks. So I'm definitely feeling the same urge to just paint and not do anything else. So I'm getting there, and I hope I can get into some sort of flow like last year, because it was amazing and I loved every second of it. So yeah, I don't know, starting a new sketchbook always feels a little bit scary, but I think that what is great about this sketchbook is the size, and I don't know, it just feels like I don't want to, you know, have to make everything perfect when I have the great opportunity to work on a sketchbook that is this tiny, and it kind of forces me to let go of some of the details that I would be, you know, adding in my paintings otherwise. So I don't know, I'm really excited about the future with the sketchbook. I'm definitely going to be at least making some sort of Instagram videos and TikTok videos out of this sketchbook, but I don't know if I'm going to be making some other YouTube videos. I might do that if you are interested, or I could make some sort of real-time Patreon videos as well, because at least so far all of these paintings that I've been making in this sketchbook have been so easy and simple and have just taken me like half an hour, which is great. This painting also took me about a half an hour, but I think that the reason why it took a little bit longer than I would have expected was just the struggle of letting go of some of those details and just saying like, it's okay, I don't have to add any more of anything, because I feel like oftentimes my canvases, even though they're not huge, they're obviously bigger, and they, you know, I just have to work a little bit longer and just make it look a little bit more finished, I guess. Whereas these paintings that I did here were kind of like, you know, me just making something and just moving on to the next one. But I guess I haven't really even explained what I'm even painting with this one. I was just kind of feeling like, I don't know, explaining some other things and just chilling out. But I decided that I would make this kind of wildflower field with these green leaves and then these white flowers. So when I was working on this painting, I was really trying to think about the depth of this flower field, while again not really trying to make anything perfect or anything. So you could see that I made that very dark green base for everything in the spread, which is, by the way, my like favorite thing with paintings, when I can just start with a very dark background, because then it just feels like I can start building things on top and I don't have to make things, I don't know, perfect from the get-go. I don't know why, but that gives me a lot of freedom, and some of my favorite paintings start with a almost black background. But then I started building the leaves on top, and I was using, by the way, a pretty small brush throughout this whole process, obviously, because the painting was pretty small as well. So I was starting with the darkest greens that barely could, you know, show from that black background, and then I started working, adding a little bit more white and yellow with each layer on top, and then I started adding those leaves on top of each other so that there is this illusion of depth in this painting. Again, it was super fun to work on because none of the details that I added, you know, were super important. Obviously together they are important, but just one little leaf doesn't really have to be perfect because you're not going to be looking at it and staring at it when this painting is done, because all of those details together are going to be, you know, the big picture. I was also making some of the first flowers a little bit darker, just like a little light gray flower, and then the ones on top were made with this bright white to show again the depth of the flower field and show that some of the flowers are in the shadow and maybe a little bit lower in the flower field, and some of the white ones are at the top and just have some more light hitting them. As you can see, by the way, I was working with a dirty paint palette. I was really feeling a little bit lazy when I started working on this. Again, I really just wanted to paint something and not really think about the result or anything like that too much. And sometimes what I think is the most annoying part of a process of painting is getting ready to paint, you know? No one ever talks about the fact that you might have to clean your space if you're filming, or you have to maybe clean your palette to be able to create clean color mixes or things like that. But sometimes those are the most annoying parts of a painting process, and that's why it's harder to start. So I like this painting because, again, I was able to work even with a dirty palette. I didn't have to, you know, clean up my palette so I can make these really light, perfect color mixes and be able to make these perfect blends and gradients. I was just really having fun with the fact that I felt like this was very low key and I didn't have to do anything incredible or very interesting. And sometimes those kinds of painting sessions are really the best, where you can just paint whatever you feel like and you don't have to mentally and physically get ready for the task. I also enjoyed the limited color palette with this one. I almost tried to go for like some extra yellow flowers in this as well, but I noticed that it was kind of distracting and it just didn't fit that well. And I think that it's really nice to only have these shades of green and the different white flowers. It just made it look really simple, and that little pop of color of the yellow in the middle of the flower just, you know, makes it really perfect and doesn't need anything else. And I was just really happy that I left it pretty simple because you really don't need much. But again, this was one of my shortest videos ever, if not the shortest. I'm not completely sure. But yeah, we are kind of getting already to the end of this video. I think that usually when I'm starting a sketchbook, I would like to make this very exciting and grand video, but I really didn't have that much to say or show in this video. So I don't know. I hope that you enjoyed this very simple and quick little video of me starting this new tiny sketchbook. Again, tell me if you would like to see more of the pages that I create inside of this sketchbook here on a YouTube video, because I can totally do that if you would like to. But yeah, I hope you like the video and you also like the painting. I for sure had a lot of fun painting this and just working in this new tiny sketchbook that I'm feeling like I'm gonna be spending a lot of time with in the next months. If you like the video and you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and leave a flower emoji down in the comments so I know you watched until the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.